YouTube comments from a video titled, "Watch, the most compelling argument against tech in schools." Sophie Winkleman. Part 6.
At Gravesworn 433 wrote,
Monkey see, monkey do. Middle school me in 2003 knew cell phones would be a bad thing overall. 22 years later, 13-year-old me was right. I only bit the bullet when I was 21, when I bought my first cell phone. It is not just cells, it's online gaming, microtransaction culture, and overall the brain rot culture. Life is very serious, whether or not you choose to believe in love, laugh, love, or that you're only here to find your joy. Life is very serious. It started with the adults before it trickled down to our children.
At Love Recovered Upholstery wrote,
The Scandinavian countries are already moving down the path to getting rid of classroom tech and banning mobiles. Back to paper, pencils, and books. I was horrified to find my grandchildren doing their preset program of homework alone on a tablet that automatically marks it. No practicing their handwriting, no interaction over something they don't understand, no learning. That's downright lazy teachers. They don't set the homework, they don't mark it. They don't go over it for learning points, either individually or as a class. They only look at the marks. What the hell are they getting paid for now? I live opposite a primary school and can tell you the teacher's car park empties before the last child has left the grounds. And parents don't get that they are supposed to teach, too, about respect, self-discipline, manners, helping out, being tidy, being civilized. That seems to have gone, too. I see the kids arrive, often by car, though every child is in walking distance, with their parents not talking, the adults scrolling through their mobiles. And we have this idiotic nobody fails ethos, child-centered learning developing themselves in group discussion. What nonsense! How can a child teach themselves in a classroom filled with commotion? And we wonder why the children learn no skills, are unable to cope with life, are unemployable, behave like animals, are destructive and uncontrollable, miserable. What have we done to our children indeed?
At Marcia Tackardine 9459 wrote,
Students do not need to be labelled or measured any more than they are. They don't need more federal funds, grants, and gimmicks. What they need from us is common sense, dedication, and bright, energetic teachers who believe that all children are achievers and who take personally the failure of any one child. Marva Collins.
At Marcia Tackardine 9459 wrote,
The more monies we spend, the less children learn, because the more machines we have there, the more gadgets, the more gimmicks, the less children have to really think. The less they have to use their innate abilities, their curiosity, their brains. Marva Collins.
At Bob Marley 965 wrote,
Beloved, I did not know I was an addict until my internet broke and I totally lost it. What to do without the internet FB and the other crap, but hey, I digress.
At Bob Marley 965 wrote,
Beloved school children need D trips OUT into the words and the words the don't need more than to hers OF. Screen A and D vag. Should be all yonder computer assisted studies. The also need less OF the other N ONSENCE teaching.
At Sumchi 3690 wrote,
Technology must always play a part in education. I was born in 1971 and received credits and high distinctions in high school. A traditional and digital curriculum are both essential.
At Jessampenerd 4576 wrote,
I live in Quebec. This year, a law that had widespread popular support is that students must surrender their phones upon arriving at school and pick them up when school is over. It's great, but at the end of the day, the kids are staring at their phones whenever they're not at school. I seen them on the metro while I read Balzac and Chekhov, and I feel uneasy about the future.
Kayla's Grief wrote,
They have been warning about this for years. 8 years ago, they already had proof of the effect social media had on children and teens. An abrupt increase in suicide rates in our youth and increase in anxiety and unhappiness. Honestly, if smartphones all died today, I would be thrilled. Computer technology has done more harm than good, and yet nothing changes. They need to educate every parent and block phones from schools.
At KT6332 wrote,
2000, I saw this coming. I did not like it then, and I definitely don't like where it has taken society as a whole now. Great argument. Thank you.
At In the Meanwhile wrote,
Pretend the power and network is out. Most kids don't know about breakers or anything these days. If you are afraid to confront the kids, just pretend. They probably don't know how to pretend either.
Quidum53 wrote,
I have been a Montessori teacher and trainer for 60 years. Montessori has sadly fallen aside for social media and computers. I can't compete with that anymore. My husband, Paul Chaja, was one of the former Montessori educators, trainers, and administrators in this country trained by Mario Montessori. He died, and with him, Montessori died. I abhor what has happened to this country, to our society, to the lazy parents of today. It is tragic. Shame on America.
Esozo5 wrote,
Although many of your points are valid, both you and Jonathan Haidt neglect to focus in on one area of childhood development, and that is the public school system. This is the social and cultural environment where children spend most of their time, usually without personal electronic devices. The public school systems are governed by state politics in the United States. They have been hard focused on race and gender ideologies in indoctrinating our children. This alone, led by teacher, authority, and peer pressure, has negatively impacted our children the most. You and Jonathan neglect to focus in on this and to effect change in the political system to stop indoctrination and to offer school choice. Those two broad strokes would do more than any of your self-help books that stoke the concerns that we already know about whilst you continue to make millions of dollars scratching our itching ears. If you send your kid to public school, and especially by the time they go to college, the chances of them coming back radicalized, disoriented, and with a new identity is great.
At Deborah Rogers 2200 wrote,
Absolutely horrifying. I struggled in poverty to raise my daughter by myself. She didn't look anything online when she was very young. After college, I had to work to pay our bills, and it was hard to do alone. I want home with her when I wanted to be. She is now completely sucked into online friends, games, YouTube, social media. Nothing I can do.
The Time Research wrote,
That's funny. I find your presentation thought-provoking, but I'm watching on a screen. Perhaps I should put the screen away and try to attend one of your lectures in person.
At Redemption Ministries wrote,
Having children means sacrifice in so many ways. Some of our income, most of our free time, and 90% of our peace and quiet must be laid down so that our children can grow up healthily. Not with adults being helicopter parents, but by offering the connection and freedom to explore the real world. Unfortunately, our culture connects material goods to being human, and we have bought the lie of the easy life, which means we sacrifice our children to our idols.
At Acapulco wrote,
My grandchildren, who are both intelligent, watch TV programs and films all day. There is a tablet for the 3-year-old who is allowed to watch it up close, 3 inches. When I moved it back slightly, His mother said that he's allowed to watch it as closely as he wanted. The 1-year-old is put in a playpen to watch TV. The 3-year-old is barely spoken to. His mother doesn't read or play with him, and he doesn't speak very well. He doesn't like to socialize. All of this makes me angry and afraid for their futures. But I am powerless to say or do anything.
At Lil Crafty Nook wrote,
Our kids aren't learning subjects like we did. They are being pushed into things like gender studies, etc. My two youngest grandchildren's 14 and 11. Writing is awful. Neither one of them are doing well in math.
At Momoka7 wrote,
When I remember back at the computer classes back in my day, I remember a room full of screens with the teacher up front. But no one is really listening to him. Everyone's staring at their screens or reading the instruction from the book or a handed out paper. Imagine every schoolroom is full of screens that are between the students and the teacher. How are students being able to learn like this? You would need a teacher per student that sits right next to the student to really teach. Teachers are supposed to lead students. For that to work, you can't have students having the ability to drift off with their mind more than quite many already did in the old system with books, papers, and just looking forward to the blackboard.
And Matt Y2H7C wrote,
Everyone has fallen into the trap the rulers have put in place. Sad thing is, everyone is still doing it. Everyone has learned absolutely nothing about what they are doing to control and brainwash you all, even though you all claim to know.
At Antonidalmont 6306 wrote,
Our problem is not exposure to it, access to information. It's the ethics of oversimplifying things that should take time instead of saving it, or worse, wasting it. Cuts into profits and exploitation. You're going to piss people off, but I love you.
At Sulfurize 666 wrote,
I hope they come up with a bionic pancreas or a way to deal with T1D without the use of technology. I hate that my kid has to have an electronic tether just to stay alive.
A Sweeties K4Z wrote,
It's about time someone is talking about using phones. It's like a glue. We are glued 24/7 watching rubbish. This has to stop. Stop to these social media apps. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook should be banned forever. Ugh. Stop this madness.
At Just Thinking Gabuta Lofit wrote,
In Europe it is simple. Mass immigration made Western Europe's salaries drop. High inflation as most illegal immigrants called refugees, which they are 100% do not work, and put a strain on economy, and also created a housing shortage. These families have to bow both work and have less time available, and the young and kids are less safe. Before all doors would be open as short as 30 years ago. Multiculturalism is the dimmest thing ever tried by the West, and no non-Western nation even really tried or even tolerates it. Simple as is. Technology thus replaced adults' time. It is that simple. Close borders. Create time because a less money is needed to pay the non-participating violent outsiders. That is it. And this is a 7. Language mixed family. 3 daily in my home alone. I know what I am saying and have been to every normal continent. Not like Antarctica. It really is. Every kid likes playing more than screens. Everyone. I do my best and time is the issue. And time is money.
At Mizerni wrote,
Me 8 hours a day minimum spending time at the laptop in my corp job. Huge. And we wonder why we get burned out. Happy yo sky my 3 and 1 yo only play outside and see no screen. Also, finally, no smartphones in schools in Belgium.
At Russ Reed 2 wrote,
Sophie stopped short of enunciating the most important truth of all. Maybe, like most of the population, because she simply does not know that computers do not teach. Cannot teach. Will never teach. Teaching happens when there is a relationship between a learner and a teacher. A living, breathing, human teacher.
At Knave Night 5737 wrote,
Everything this goofy is saying would be mitigated by parents not being fucking losers. Maybe get off your own fucking phone and actually raise your children before you claim to have a problem with theirs.
At Artistic Flight 7035 wrote,
This all starts with poor parenting skills. Stop giving your children these devices before they have at least grown up a little. I seen a video the other day of people giving infants cell phones to play with. Literally, they can barely sit up, and you're giving them these things. You can't blame the teachers for your lack of care in your own children. Parents should be teaching the basics anyways. Teach your child the alphabet, how to read, basic mathematics, and the core fundamentals so they actually thrive in life. School is a joke. Don't expect anything less if you have disconnected yourself from your child's upbringing. Don't give me that BS you don't have time. Good parents make the time. School systems can fix this simply by banning technology. No calculators, no cell phones, no laptops, no gaming handhelds, no smartwatches, no smart glasses, etc. Secondly, take the time to punish your child for wrongdoings. Children should fear their parents and the consequences of their actions, not the other way around. Parents need to observe their children and overwatch them. Make sure they are not watching things they should not be. Don't allow them to be subjected to inappropriate, filthy material at a young age either. No child in the single digits should be exposed to anything sexual in nature.
At Johan 92 Johansson wrote,
Yep, I'm 33Y/O due to my Asperger am not the best at creating connectinos. I found a wallet on the parking lot of the grocery store a few weeks ago. I found the girl who owned it. She was just a few years younger than me. I managed to return it to her quite quickly as I was able to find her address via her driver's license. As I returned it, we chatted for a few minutes outside her apartment. I did not get her phone number as she had removed it from all sites and I was too shy at the moment to ask for it. I did write her a kind letter the next morning as all I had was her address, simply asking her if she wanted to stay in touch. It's been 2 weeks now and I have heard nothing from her at all. Sure can't expect too much here, but waiting for the stars to align again just to get a chance to maybe get in touch with girls is problematic. I'm happy that I'm old enough to be one of the last to grow up without smartphones. Getting my first one after graduating high school.
At Michaelenki wrote,
In my classrooms, I refuse to have my students have online with one exception. In one class, the students have a semester project to become Google Sheets/Excel certified. At the end of the year, they state that is one of the best things about my class.
At David Career 8048 wrote,
The children spend hours on phones, but ask them any question on any subject, and they can't answer any of them. If you tell them the answer to your question and ask them the same question a couple of weeks later, they still can't answer it. They leave school now as dumb as when they started.
At Lewisich, Serrano 5821 wrote,
Nice anecdote, but if you were a man, you would know men can't speak to random women anymore because they will be labeled from cringe to rapists. Thank you, feminism.
At Olivia Hacking, KF7PX wrote,
There is a reason ALL, the children of the Silicon Valley billionaire class, have no phones, no computers either at home or at school. These monsters have created a tech dystopia they never intended to control, and now can no longer anyway with AI. In their insanity, humans now have friends and relationships with robots as too much tech means they can't relate to other human beings in a meaningful way. How sick is that? The CIA, which bankrolled every success in Silicon Valley, has almost achieved its goal: a global tech system to create digital slaves that they can control from afar. Time to bulldozer SV. After all, it's only 25 years old and has caused far more harm than good in society as created by people with zero empathy or humanity, seeing people only as numbers, carrying data to be bought and sold.
At Mike Acoustic Music wrote,
People are creators, and yet now this addiction devotion overrides well what could have been or should have been instead of kids growing to learn borders and limits of their own. These have boxed them into others' trappings and devices. As willing subjects, the nature of man is fallen and once again displays itself clearly as such. The water the suds the tub, and the whole baby is tossed out along with the windows and streets tossed out too, since nothing can be real anymore. It's telling, isn't it? Such vanity in the rise of man constantly conquered under very fake and few categories. Give them what they want.
Tom Snip wrote,
It's not schools doing this, it's parents. How many kids under 5 in public spaces do you see with an electronic device? How many parents want their kids to be entertained while at a restaurant? In the car, spaces the adults want their own time to talk, so they hand them their phone or have bought them their kids their own iPad. How many? This is parents blaming a school over a problem they perpetuate. A kid gets to a literature circle and doesn't know how to sit still and listen to the teacher read because their parents have never read to them. Parents have to take responsibility and start at home, stopping the problem from developing. Schools have to use a variety of tools to help students learn, which means preparing them using technology productively. It's lazy parenting that is the problem. Let's reverse the clock. Do some research. These same comments and accusations were made with the invention and mass buying of the television. Just a cycle of lazy parenting.
At Roland Wenzel wrote,
Big tech giants follow profit at any cost. If Meta or TikTok decide they will invest heavily in well-being and quality educational content, they will run out of business. So it's a conundrum. How can we reinforce positive feedback loops in today's society and be profitable as well?
At Heartfully Honest wrote,
There is an even larger issue at hand, and that's the schools and childcare institutions heavily relying in digital communication with parents. Data protection and privacy in the hands of third-party service providers, and often in the hands of rather less competent staff managing IT and data security aspects. More than too many schools are using Google Cloud and Workspace to share and store data about our kids. And that's just one of the many glaring problems. As much as I grew up with technology and worked professionally with it, I cannot agree more with vigilance when it comes to protecting our kids from the harm of social media, networks, and most of all, the predators lurking all around these places.
At user We3EG9 versus 8Z wrote,
This is why in my class, whenever I see kids pull out a phone, I tell them to talk to their classmates like normal people used to do otherwise. I take it away from them.
At Rachel Abbott 9393 wrote,
100%. And some of it by design as well, making them compliant and able to be controlled by the state as well as the classroom. I am sure there are a lot of teachers who don't want to teach this way either.
At Tangisar 4151 wrote,
When I went to primary school, you had to listen to teacher and write down what's for homework. Same goes for any information concerning school, you only had 2 options to save it. Use your brain or notebook, that's it. My 10-year-old boys forget what I told them to do by the time they get upstairs. My mom had no idea what I did all day, yet my day was fulfilled with play, friends, and books. My kids complain constantly how bored they are. I could spend hours in library or roaming in our town market. My favorite time was spent picking blueberries or chestnuts with my family, but absolute blast was spending time at my grandma's farm. My kids are torn between schoolwork and sports they enjoy. We barely have time to go anywhere. We're stressed, deprived of sleep and rest. World is too quick for my senses and the kids? Kids are just lost with us. By trying to make our life easier, we surely did make it more complicated and stressful. Digital appliances should be completely banned from schools.
Carrie Gray 9831 wrote.
I was at Menards getting a piece of carpet, and a 20-year-old was in training being shown how to make a receipt. He was asked, "How much is 3 by 6?" and he went to his phone for the answer. Pathetic.
At More Animals 6889 wrote.
Originally, the reason to be able to take an exam online was for college students, but I don't know why, and in specific situations for students with specific needs, like some sort of learning disability or disability.
At James Marr 6123 wrote.
My girlfriend's grandson is full of imagination and can play for hours with a toy screwdriver or a simple large clip. For papers imaging, he is cutting stone with it. The secret his father told me: keep the digital world away from him and let him live freely in the world of his imagination.
At Moonlit Nightingale 17 wrote.
I agree 100%, but for the love of God, where are the parents who don't believe that removing screens should be synonymous with Christian morals? It's like the only solution I have to taking my 8-year-old out of the lion's den of EdTech public schools is to throw her into the shark tank of religious institutions. It's a lose-lose.
At Anakmura Jenkins 7920 wrote.
I agree to all of it. I was born in Poland, and as the kids from the block I grew up in, one of those communist blocks, there were plenty of children. We spent every minute possible playing games outside, having adventures. I feel sorry for my children who cannot experience this, for life is happening online. I also believe in things that are simple and that one can touch. However, one thing I don't agree. Not always can a teacher be better or have more influence on one. It can go both ways. I experienced great teachers, dedicated teachers who wanted to make a difference and take the children on a journey. But I also think that not every teacher has those intentions. Unfortunately, some come already unmotivated in their classroom, do their job without any soul, and leave without any concern if the child understands or not. I lived in 3 different countries, also 2 different economic systems, and experienced school in all of them. Only dedicated teachers who love their job and who are mentors to our children can make that difference.
Adanis Framed wrote.
I'm so tired of these fat broads squeezing into girdles underwear commercials. Especially since they look so proud that they got hired for an out-of-human shape photo shoot.
At LKYN 915 wrote.
What have we done to parents? Making them work more than seeing their kids. Not allowing for one parent to stay home to help children is where things started to turn.
At Birdeye 75 wrote.
Is there any school that actually allows devices in class? Because I have 2 kids and an elementary school. They're not even allowed to bring them in high school, they'll be taken away. If they use them during class, I agree with a lot of what she says. But isn't that just false information to start?
At Mr. Jofindra wrote.
There's a speech and hearing institute in my city. Children are admitted there for being slow in learning how to speak. The major reason is that the parents prefer browsing the net or watch TV instead of talking to their children. For the kids, the cartoons on the mobile is like a pacifier.
At Angel Biggs 2829 wrote,
Somebody else mentioned it's not the phone directly, it's the interwebs. My boys didn't even want a phone until they were much older. They only did it because of work and safety. And then they didn't have data plans. They just bought minutes at the local 7-Eleven for their phone until that no longer is available, so now they may have buy a low-cost monthly plan. And they are 27 and 28 now, but it's their choice. My husband and myself only got hours because of work as well. And yes, I've noticed a difference in the way we interact. But I had a house full of generational role-play gamers that get together weekly and socialize.
At Love 733 wrote,
I'm so glad my children didn't have access to mobile phones when they were young, and we read books at bedtime well into their teens. I loved researching from books as a student and writing my essays by hand, and I got good grades. Sadly, one of my sons is in a psychiatric unit for several years after multiple bereavements. He now spends hours playing PlayStation games alone in his room and is expected to regulate his emotions and recover. I'm broken-hearted at the normalization of screens in every form. It's definitely not progress.
At Helen 36 wrote,
I don't understand why there are phones in schools. My boys are 21 and 25 now, and when they were at school, kids had to give their phones in at the start of school and were given them back at the end of the day. What changed?
At Res 7864 wrote,
I don't know why she is talking about. She should have been focused instead on British raising their kids instead, because they do a shitty job in education on their children. Is not the technology. Is the parents who are racist, loud, aggressive, and teaching their loved ones to be the same way. That's where the problem is.
At Tiger Scott 2966 wrote,
Technology is a great asset. Like everything, too much of it causes problems. It's out of hand in America. Now people drive with the smartphones. They are always with the person until they stolen or lost. This is the perfect vehicle for an open slave population.
At Dave's Inc. 7944 wrote,
Back in the 70s when I was a kid, I'd go bike riding, throw the frisbee a lot. Even do jigsaw puzzles on the coffee table. Played board games. Even 25 years ago, it wasn't that bad. Kind of tragic.
At History 4 Psyche wrote,
Wow, this was incredible. I am 28 and my wife is 27. We have 2 kids and only give them an hour and a half of phone time split up throughout the evening after school. It works great. In addition, we have Bible study every Sunday to help maintain a tradition within a traditionless world. We have movie night twice a week as well. It's the small things that have big impacts on your kids. Don't forget that. Make time for family time. It matters. God bless you, everyone, and your families.
At Animusadverter 3371 wrote,
Why on earth would anyone let kids use phones during class? Back in the day, we weren't even allowed to use programmable calculators. We had to use our brains, which I thought is what education was primarily meant to develop. Whatever, I gave up all hope in the future of society decades ago.
At David Dodwell IH8UU wrote,
So-called educators are the deviants that insisted that there were to be tech in school. I know this from personal experiences, that the SCUIs were the one to bring in the tech. Is it not interesting when going to get groceries? I find the grocery overlords are very concerned about the children's mental health, and the so-called adults who here, when the tech was brought into the schools, seem to be acting maybe not. They do not know the harm in their smarty pants phones. Stop using propaganda as so-called education.
At Guerrilla Underground wrote,
Will conventional education be more effective if we teach one subject per day with a primary academic lesson, a secondary puzzle revision lesson, and free time at the end of the day to play sports or engage in creative electives? There is research to show that the long-term memory needs sleep to properly absorb and retain information.
At Graham 5820 wrote,
I just saw a video where a kindergarten teacher put clear plastic wrap blocking the entrance to the classroom. It was done by the teacher in an attempt to make the kids solve how to get into the room. Since the children were too small to step over, they just had to duck and then walk on in, and most gladly did just that, except one little girl. She just stood there crying, even after watching the other children happily duck under the plastic and go on in.
At Soliel Levant wrote,
Teachers are letting kids play on devices all day so they don't have to teach. Schools have stopped teaching cursive. They teach them how to use calculators so they don't have to teach actual math. They teach them to listen to whatever is on the internet for answers to their history questions. And we all know everything on the internet is true. This way they don't have to teach history, home economics, math, English, etc. My grandson at 20 years old had never been taught how to write checks, to pay bills, how to budget, etc. That's what is being taught to our children. Believe everything on the internet and don't worry about reading, writing, and arithmetic. I get so.
At Phillips 9472 wrote,
Teachers are using AI to do their jobs and handballing active teaching to screens and tech. Parents have the power to change this trajectory, but most parents are detached from their child's education and academic progress because they also are absorbed by the doom scrolling on social media. It's not just the education sector. Everywhere is becoming increasingly reliant on AI and tech to replace human roles.
At Genius Educational Software 5043 wrote,
I am watching this lady teaching me on my mobile phone. You can put all educational books, videos, tests, quizzes, simulation on mobile phones. I beg to disagree with her.
At Anachain 1 wrote,
Stop using the Q, W, /AZ, ERT, Y keyboards. They are not meant for expressing oneself, but to slow down our writings and minds. There are some more interesting layouts like Bapio.
At Nicholas Henderson 6941 wrote,
I would argue it's more about how we teach kids in school. You expect children to sit quietly and listen to a teacher teach the most boring subjects. The tech is more interesting to the kids than learning stuff they don't see as relevant. And you wonder why kids are failing. Maybe teach math as you're building something useful and entertaining. Maybe teach reading by written instructions on something they want to do. It's how it's taught. It's boring, like college. It's taught like everyone will be an academic, when in reality only 5 to 10% will be.
At Appa wrote,
Wonderful to hear. Clapped right along with audience. Quite moving. Glad I made it through public school long before all this started. My tricycle and Tinker toys were great fun.
At Woob 51 wrote,
This started about 20 years ago with portable DVD players.
I saw parents giving devices like this to children under the age of 2 back then, before the advent of the smartphone.
Ian Baker H7H wrote,
This is a call to arms if I ever heard one. The most insightful and eloquently presented attack on the screen I've ever heard. I just want to get rid of my smartphone after hearing this. A hammer comes to mind at this moment. This bastard machine is so dangerous. Books, books, books. All the way we are all being dehumanized. We are entering or already are in the age of the counterfeit.
Pod 1475 wrote,
All the promises of social media were the same promises that were given when TV became mainstream. When I was a child, my parents limited TV time, which I didn't like. We were kicked out of the house and came home for tea. I used my bicycle to explore. At nearly 57, I still enjoy my bike. I hate technology. I come home and I avoid the computer. Everything is online. Customer service is appalling. Get them using Lego and Meccano if indoors. Make stuff even if it does work the first time.
Ed Brothaslison wrote,
White people are just beginning to live in reality. They now can see all the complaints the non-whites have had about them for centuries, because now it affects them. Now they make profound speeches that get big applause, and they are really just rehashing old arguments they used to be insulated from. You can only blame your ancestors and just know the world won't trust you to fix anything, nor if you're really enlightened, you wouldn't trust yourselves either.
A T Brothers Project wrote,
Why is everything go back to the old ways? We may as well say reject change. How about if the adults figure out a way to use technology and everything else that is new as tools to teach? We just don't want to think, don't want to learn, so we cry back to the good old ways and days. It's lazy and frankly pathetic.
Mika 0000 wrote,
If we don't get a strong grip regulations on AI, we are running the risk of losing our uniqueness, our humanity, to artificial mech/system. By the way, that's not what God intended for us.
At Randy Andy Show wrote,
I'm not against tech for education. It's about how it's implemented. I'm against tech being implemented as a way for teachers to be lazy. Tech isn't the problem. The way it's been used is.
El Karen wrote,
We can see clearly that constant screen time isn't conducive to a growing brain. Let us learn from awareness and not in stagnation. Let's not feed someone else's agendas and pockets while holding ourselves slaves to their bidding. We have already been duped, losing a whole generation having to fight for what we have lost in so-called progress. Some children have become violent when being denied the screen. Elanya Van Zandt said it well, call a thing, and let's move forward in gained knowledge.
Peterson wrote,
Ladies and gentlemen, this problem is all around in the world since young kids are raised by smartphones and social media, instead by parents who should teach them basic discipline and respect to adults. Wait in a few years when these kids without any discipline, respect, and being abusive will become adults. Then our society will go through hell and governments will deal with a lot of crimes. I have my personal bad experiences in Germany where young kids and teens are out of control and suing adults for just screaming at them because those kids are testing limits of adults, teachers, coaches, police, officers, etc.
Tim Jackson 1904 wrote,
There's an analogy here with the effect of drugs that make you feel better than normal. You want more and don't want to give them up. Gen A for addicts.
Pat Glover X3L wrote,
With vastly improved school budgets, there are apparently 1,700 primary schools which don't think spending a tiny proportion of their wealth on a school library is worthwhile. Their head teachers should be asked what the money the other 14,300 primary schools spent on school libraries, they have spent that cash on.
At Juhakavikas 2175 wrote,
I completely agree with her.
but I wish she had given a list of scientific references to her comparisons between EdTech and human education. These claims are easy and logic to make, but without references they are just good opinions. We are heading to doom in so many ways. I'm amazed how well Orwell and Huxley were able to see to the future. And we just look phlegmatically from the side and allow this all to happen. Our ability to think is vanishing the same time as narratives are force-fed. Freedom of speech and expression are limited step by step. We are drunk from the digital potential and now last AI. How many times we say that we are not taught what to think instead of how to think. And we still let it happen. I've noticed significant deterioration in reading ability of not only young people, but grown-ups, including myself with the iPads, cellulars, and computers. Well, we should admit that our ability to predict future is lousy. We are not facing overcrowding the earth even if the wise men so predicted in the 1970s. Quite the contrary. And frankly, we already know, but we do not admit that the war against CO2 is baseless. The idea of bringing in people from elsewhere to fill the reducing population of Europe is turning to a nightmare, but we can't really say it out loud. We live a post-truth era. We live the era of narratives. Narratives are new religions. One of the narratives is that computers/digitality makes life better. One of the narratives is that we are all equal while it is obvious that we are not. Some people are taller, some smaller, some fatter, some skinnier, some are more intelligent than others, and there is no way going around it. There are people who born more fortunate than others, and there are people who bound to succeed and people who are bound to fail. Maybe this truth is just too painful for an average person to accept. When did we start heading to the wrong direction? By digitality, or was it the oil or steam that made our lives too easy? Where should we have drawn the line? And now, where should we draw the line? Who decides? UN, WEF, EU, IMF, all pretty much working towards the other direction. Integration in itself seems to lead to more elitism. Are we doomed? Is the root cause the code in our genes which makes us for not only survival, but for success and easier life?
At Chiefess Nova 369 wrote,
You're making a choice to give your child something that's highly addictive and not a positive for their lives, and they have the nerve to cause cancer too. Hell Ned, these devices are not for children SMH devil work.
At Mevel Major 6223 wrote,
Social media is toxic. It is the principal thing poisoning human minds. Go research. All the folks in tech, the ones creating social media and hardware to use it. Most of them don't want their children to have anything to do with social media or screens. They want human connection. They understand the poison they are unleashing on society.
At Sahar Ibrahimi 5438 wrote,
Thank you for this mind-opening and path-making speech to save human future. I hope it awakens ever-lazy parents and educational institutions to get back to pen and paper and teach their kids the real wonders of the world and let them create their own signs on this earth.
At Ruffianio 3418 wrote,
I don't think that reading a text on a screen versus from a page makes a difference. The true difference is that the book has no notifications and easy distractions. You cannot procrastinate by doing something else on your book or quickly check your social media. So, the teacher's job should be to make kids realize that those devices are tools they use when they need them, and stay clear of them when they don't. Kids can easily be shown that hammer and screwdriver addiction is not a thing, but smartphone addiction is.
At Tina 1104 wrote,
I loved the history lesson at school when I was younger because we got to draw a picture after we had written things down. I learned about the subject and loved art.
At Keytyper 4296 wrote,
My son is 18. He was not allowed a cell phone until he was 15 years old. He only uses it occasionally now, often leaving it home during school. He is a straight-A student and has 2 jobs he enjoys. He has an investment act. He has plans to go to law school and become a lawyer. He has told me many times that he worries his friends at school are way behind and just do not care about improving their lives or building a future. They are all obsessed with their phones, and it's become harder and harder for him to even find PPL his age to talk to during lunch or other free periods. It's so sad. I wish someone had listened to those of us who saw this happening 20 years ago.
Isozo 2U wrote,
The AI boat, having already left the harbor, is taking on water fast, yet all they're doing is full steam ahead while rearranging the deck chairs. Jump overboard, people, and you'll live. School should have limited device time.
At Jeeper Screechers wrote,
Well said. I'm 61 and hate phones and most tech. Trying to find people to do physical things with these days is near impossible, so I spend most of my time doing my hobbies alone.
Koganman 3 wrote,
This is done by design. The elites know that if you control the minds of the youngest, then you control everything. Keep them controlled and stupid. Only smart enough to do the elite's bidding. They also know you can control all ages. Look how they controlled the masses with a virus they released either by accident or design. It really makes no difference how it was released on the world. They saw an opportunity to control us, and they took it. All in the name of safety for our health. Forced vaccines, forced masking, forced distancing. The world went mad. Kids forced from schools are now suffering the mental problems in record numbers. What they did to us was criminal, and not a single repercussion to anyone. Dr. Foch, the mastermind and funder for gain of function on a bug that was weaponized by the Chinese, killed millions of us, and not a day in prison. Probably one of the biggest mass killers in history.
Tanya Psi9DX wrote,
Technocrat billionaires are pushing an AI agenda where the human race is depopulated. The ones who are left will merge with AI. Obviously, this agenda isn't for their family, just yours and mine. The only way to stop this is for the human race to give up their smartphones and other tech. By who will do that now we are heavily dependent and addicted to them.
At Martin James 7674 wrote,
Absolutely brilliant. Governments need to wake up. Schools need to wake up. We have to ban mobile phones in schools. And that should just be the start. It is so sad to see children at bus stops no longer interacting with each other, but with their phones. Countries like Australia and Brazil congratulated for realizing the dangers and taking steps to halt this march towards a tech-dominated society.
At 144_chosen wrote,
It all comes from Greek, Latin, pharmaceuticals, chemistry, alchemy, voodoo, magical sorcery, and you pump fucking magic in your kids every year, and it makes them doomer and doomer.
At Lonnie Davis Sr. wrote,
Children and young adults are stimulus addicted. That what happens when you give them cell phones and PC to use as they please, just what the left wants to make children and young adults dumb. And yes, stimulus addiction is real, thus the crazy lights and subterminal messages they put into the TV, social media, etc. to brainwash them. Oh, yes. We had this in the 1950s, and it is perfected today. See how dumb you are. You don't believe it. I'm an electronic engineer, I know.
At 1G1D1W wrote,
My kids got phones when they were 18 and bought their own. Their game system was in the living room where we could keep an eye on them. Their computer was in their room when they hit high school age.
At Detroit Kim wrote,
As a 26-year educator who remembers when data and testing came in hot and heavy because it would save our underperforming teachers and students to only mightily and continually profiting tech bro sector, I thank you. Please keep up this work. Us old hat teachers said no phones when schools began letting them in, only to be told by districts they had just purchased content where students had to use their phone. When we said they needed less tech time, the adamant insisted on getting rid of textbooks in favor of online books and video game type programs, with of course the requisite test data compiling built in. When COVID happened, teachers were blamed for forcing kids to be on too much screen time without human interaction, only to return to school where Adamant purchased every kid iPads or Chromebooks and forced amounts of time on new programs they bought during COVID. All these schools ran to tech as some kind of savior, while I was wondering why in the hell the district had never prepared grade-level learning packets that could easily be copied in case of emergencies that closed schools for long times, like fires or hurricanes, tornadoes, or mass sickness. Yet teachers were blamed. I left a couple of years ago as I couldn't be a part of harming kids anymore. I recently returned to HS teaching, formerly at L. And new cell phone policy being implemented, and in every class it's been a battle, and in every class there are 3 to 4 students who exhibit severe addiction symptoms, like that I've seen in drug addicts, panic, anxiety, stress, etc. On top of all of this, a teacher's job has gotten far more time-consuming, challenging, and difficult. Between emails, stupid apps like Slack, being told to make electronic slideshows for all lessons, and real time grading access has created a job that is distracted from the real job of teaching, and created a job that is not even humanly possible to do in a 24-hour day. This is a long post, but teachers who've been in trenches a long time have known the awful destructive things that tech has caused students and teachers. Now the tech bros are banging the drums of AI just like they did data, to make even more of a profit on the backs of our teachers, students, and our future. Not to mention how AI is destroying communities and environment. We must all speak up.
At Cameron Smith 937 wrote,
I remember when my mother returned to work, and from then stay-at-home mothers was a past. Then government offered support for many family needs. The environment from workplaces right through to internet has taken what was left. Comfort and convenience was the trades, and we are to blame too, but our apparently leader has this planed and sold long ago. Funny that life and what's viewed as important has such a large divide to those who consume and those who bring consumption to life with nothing more than profit and power.
At Iron Hat 2 wrote,
I wonder if, surely we all know that human beings will not be around forever, nothing will. What will exist immediately after we are gone? What will we leave behind? Will it be some sort of hybrid, or a robot we created capable of overseeing and performing the duties necessary to assist with the remaining life or whatever function we designed it to perform? And even our successors will eventually pass away, perhaps when they reach the end of their usefulness. Even if we leave no trace of our past, nature will continue, on its own, to control all things as it always has. Anyway, here's my question. Is this phenomenon we are witnessing, with what appears to us, of us becoming increasingly less connected to each other, merely a natural progression of man's transition of becoming less human and more hybrid or machine? Are we just witnessing a minuscule part of nature's plan, like watching the seasons change? Nature has its own plan for us and all living things, and I think it is much more thought out and complex than we can now or will ever be able to figure out.
At M3CH4N1K wrote,
Does anyone know why, or even have any clue as to what is going on in relation AI and data centers supposedly being necessary? Why do we need this stuff? What on earth is really going on?
Esox 2025 wrote,
Nothing will replace a physical book. In my childhood days, I would travel around the world with sets of encyclopedia and classics like Jules Verne. I grew to be a person that loves other countries and cultures, all because of books. We definitely need to go back to basics.
At Graced Rosie 5127 wrote,
I am so devastated my son's school keep kids glued on iPad. My son never cared for iPad as much, but the month he is at school will often come home and ask if G can be on screen. It's annoying because they let our kids spend much time on screen than I personally ever did. You imagine your child being on the screen daily hurts. At 6 years he just told me if I know TikTok. He told me they said it's so fun. I wish I can afford homeschool.
At Skyfall 9243 wrote,
I have said it for years, phones are brainwashing people. And also creating more hatred in the world than ever before. The world will eventually eat itself, and will rise to survival of the fittest.
At Crazahorse 5457 wrote,
Porn should be opt-in, not opt-out, as it currently is. The default should be no access unless you request it from your ISP in your internet package.